So she's the boss of one of Northern Ireland's top haulage firms, W.S. Dennison. She's chair of Northern Ireland Freight Council. She's the national officer for the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Travel. She's represented her industry at Westminster, and she's recognised as one of the 20 for 20 rising stars who are set to drive logistics to a new height. So today I'm delighted to have the chance to talk to Pamela Dennison, and we're going to learn all about Pamela's career path and how she keeps her drive and passion in a very male-dominated industry, her role as a leader and a female leader, building diversity into the industry, and her vision for greater diversity and how we can get there. So that's a lot to cover. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Transport is my background, yes.
So do you want to tell us how you got started and all about how you kind of built up this amazing experience of achievements?
Yes, quite happy to. So my father started W.S. Dennison in 1979 and as an owner driver really, and realised a gap in the market for furniture logistics, and had been working. So our dad really wasn't there when we were growing up. My mum looked after us all. She had four kids under three. So that was a tough going for her. And really the business has just grown from strength to strength throughout the years. So Dad celebrated 40 years last year in business. So we're really delighted with that. And it was very much at a young age, I'm not going into the family business. No. I don't want to do with transport. And I've had a variety of roles, really from the ground up. But with a family business, you've always, you come home and you have to do X, Y, and Z, wash lorries, brush the yard, photocopy, those mundane tasks. But as a family business, it's part and parcel of what's required of you. And then I went into the airport for a couple of years and done a few jobs through there, and I realised actually I do quite like transport. And I went then to work for my father again, and more in the office roles and administration regarding that. And then it sort of grew, and I done my exams, my certificate of professional competence. And then I thought, well, I need to learn more about other roles within transport. So I went to a local haulage firm, McCullough, and was their compliance manager for a year. And they work in FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods. So everything that you get in your Tesco's and your Asda's and your Lidl, they deliver those in terms of cold store ice creams, cheeses, meats, eggs, that sort of element. So they have a 24/7 operation compared to furniture, where that's just not the same element. But really enjoyable, and they gave me an opportunity, and I grabbed it with both hands and ran with it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was definitely an eye-opener, and it was great to have that opportunity outside of the family business but still within that sector. And then I went on to work with another family business located in Nuts Corner, Beatty's Freight, and worked within their pharmaceutical section, which is very compliance heavy. You're working with medicines and blood samples and animal-based products, and it's very intense, and everything has to be right, and every I dotted and every T crossed. And it just fed into my compliance element, ensuring that everything was managed and controlled. And I brought in new business regulations and ISOs, and I just sort of tightened up the ship a wee bit, and then I moved into a local council in their waste collection service, and I managed their team for a year within that, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And it gave me the public sector element, but all the time while I worked in those roles, I still maintained a presence in W.S. Dennison, and that helped and allowed me to grow. And I realised I need to keep putting myself out there. I need to keep seeing what else is in the market and what other opportunities were available for me, because the only way I could grow was pushing myself. Nobody else is going to push you forward. So that I learned very, very quickly, and the opportunities just kept coming and I just kept grabbing them. And it made me grow as a person, and that fed into the family business, which ultimately I believe I have contributed in different ways.
This is really amazing, because you're talking about a couple of things there. I'm going to pick up on first, just in terms of actually your personal commitment to getting new experiences, taking new risks, getting more educated and more certified. And I know that's something now, when you're in your leadership position, that's something that you're really passionate about as well, is bringing people through at the apprentice level and then moving them all the way up to that certification, that higher level certification. Like, so you've kind of done that throughout your career. And did you push yourself, or did your family push you, or did you just know that that's the best way for me as a woman, or maybe not like a traditional, like, you know, haulage logistics person, to get ahead? Or
well, it started, I really disliked school. I suppose me and school just didn't have a good relationship, maybe. Is that the best way? And I realized the only way I was going to get ahead and move to the next role was through experience. And my father and my mother both pushed me. If I went to apply for a role, they were always like, and why this role? What do you think it will bring to the table? And I think those questions are very apt at the time. And sometimes it did go sideways to go forward. So I did move across in order to, maybe the role didn't suit me, or I just didn't gel well in that company. Maybe I am quite aware public sector maybe isn't for me. But that's okay, because that's a bit of living and learning. And yes, it wasn't until I was maybe 23, 24 that I realized, right, I need to push on. I need to now fire on all cylinders and crank this up a bit in terms of experience. I need to go to the next level. I need that strategic understanding. I need that operational understanding, financial understanding. It was just, I don't know, it was just a light bulb moment, really, that just went, right, okay, now I have to move on. Because you can sit at a sort of lower management level and be stuck in that rut.
mm-hmm.
But unless you're willing to put your head above the parapet and willing to take on that extra responsibility, and that might be in an unpaid role, in a voluntary role, it just is, it makes, sorry, kids, just kids managing, managing kids as well. Yeah, you just have to be willing, you know, whether that, it could be a variety of things, you know, in your local club, secretary, it could be treasurer in your local club, but that's still a skill set that you can bring to the table, and don't be afraid to do so.
Yeah, I think that's really important, that sometimes you're doing things that might not be instantly rewarding for your career path, or a financial reward or something like that, but there is a benefit behind it for you personally, but also for the people around you and for your community. And I think that's really, really important message to get across. I know also when you were in your early 20s, you were busy doing a few other things as well, is that right?
Yes, I had my eldest when I was 21, and she pretty much was born in the family business. So she was, my waters broke 3 weeks early in the yard, as they call it. And my mum decided, she came from Belfast from her work to lift me and take me to hospital. Bear in mind, our operation is in Antrim. It's a 1.5 mile from Antrim Hospital. We got a flat tire on the way to the hospital. And we literally tried to change the flat tire at the side of the road, but thankfully one of the drivers spotted us and came to our rescue.
There's you and your mum on the side of the road, changing the flat
jumping on a ratchet
while your waters broke. You're in a neighbour, and then along comes another guy from your business, and he's like, he helps you out. And
he did, he was very good. And yes, and ended up, she wasn't born for 3 days later. until another 3 days, but hey ho. And then 6 weeks, I had 6 weeks maternity and then straight back to work. But I brought Grace back to work with me, and she literally was reared in the office beside me.
So I think that's a really inspiring story because, yeah, it's like you're just so you're so focused, you're so in the zone, like on everything. You're just really just there in the moment, and but whenever it's time to move on.
Yeah, I had to, and I think routine played a big part, Anne. It really was. We strive as a family on routine. You know, get up at this time, do X, Y, and Z. All your activities are booked in advance. I know what my diary is as much as possible in terms of kids, and merging that in with a working day. But as long as I have that structure, I can work to my best. And I understand the daily activities change, and that's okay. But as long as that diary is structured for that day, I can manage that to the best of my ability.
So that I wanted to come back to that point actually from earlier, which is about key workers and structure actually of how you manage your family life, especially now with Brexit on the horizon, or it's already started. We all know that through COVID, the most important people are logistics people, and you guys are key workers. So thank you so much for doing everything, all your team for doing all the amazing work throughout like the last couple of months. But so you're saying structure actually, being organized in a personal but also a family and a wider level is really a key part of being able to work in the logistics industry. Is that, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. But however, the logistics and transport industry is one of the most adaptable industries. Like, we manage every possible scenario you could throw at us: weather, snow, storms, Brexit, COVID, breakdowns, accidents,
babies.
Yeah, you absolutely, you name it, we have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, as they say. And that's what makes us such a resilient industry. So when COVID came, nobody was expecting it, but if anybody of all the sectors was going to adapt, it was going to be transport and logistics ultimately.
You've described your career path to me, but if I was like a non-traditional, haulage person, and I'm like 18, 19, 20, how would you sell me on entering the industry? What's your vision for what the industry looks like in the future to get more diversity into it?
So this is a hard one. The industry is recognised typically as male, pale and stale. So only 2% of HGV drivers are female. It's typically known that you're away all day, every day. If you have young kids, that's very difficult. It's a 24/7 industry, so how do you build that into a family environment? But ultimately, we're growing at such a pace with this just-in-time deliveries, these online deliveries that everybody relied on during COVID. So the career paths on offer are phenomenal within logistics and transport. Everything from warehouse compliance, transport planning, HR, finance. But we're an industry that is grown based on consumer demand, and that's very, very important. But it's just how that feeds in. If you're willing to do the time, or give the time and the effort, you will be rewarded. The industry will reward you in the end, but you have to be willing to give that up. And unfortunately, sometimes in transport, we see them as the Generation X, or those millennials who expect that 9 to 5 element, and don't want to work after 5 o'clock. And unfortunately, that's not the way this industry works at all. But what you do see is those people who have very successful careers because they have given their time an element, and they have maybe 25, 30 years later returned to 9 to 5 because they have dedicated their time initially. And that's really what it's about. In order to get somewhere, you have to be willing to give your time to your career, because it will pay dividends at the end. And it's important that that next generation understand that, especially when we are the ones, or my kids are the ones that are want a new iPhone tomorrow, or want a new whatever, new t-shirt today. It's us that are delivering that. So you've got to think of that supply chain element and how that happens and those people involved in that to get your product to your door.
Yeah, if you're in a 9-to-5 job, you can probably, you know, turn your laptop off at a certain time and pick it up again tomorrow. But you can't do that in logistics. You're passing the baton on to somebody else on the supply chain, and you just have to keep that moving. And the speed is getting faster. So it's actually quite an exciting time to join the industry, and there's lots of opportunities, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And no matter what industry I think you're in, everything is changing. And whether it's going into medicine, you know, you just can't walk out of a hospital at a certain time. I would like to think you can't do that either. But and even, you know, education is becoming, the time where people are getting educated is expanding past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah, it's almost becoming more normal.
Yeah.
People to spend longer hours to get the job done and then get the reward after the job is done. Okay.
Yeah. And it's not an overnight thing. You have to be dedicated. This is an industry. I work in an industry that is it's here for the long term. We are never going away. It's not like IT where it continually is refreshing and that's old and out of date information. Just to give you an example, customs clearance. So Northern Ireland didn't need haven't needed customs specialists in 30 years. So that industry has sort of died, and it's only been needed for the rest of the world goods, for people who export outside of the EU. But oh my goodness, those people are now absolutely 100% sought after, and they will be rewarded handsomely in respect of that knowledge and that skill base, because there's so many businesses out there that now need that. Nobody's foreseen that coming.
In terms of your personal learning as well as your personal leadership journey, how would you envision that in the future in terms of actually playing your part in building diversity into leadership roles in your company, but also at a wider level, whether it's Northern Ireland, UK, Ireland, global? Like, how do you see that?
I am a person who goes after, if I believe there's an opportunity for me, I will try and grab it with both hands. It's sort of like my career path in that respect. So I'm trying to obtain experience at a voluntary level initially, and then trying to deliver that through applications forms for those paid positions. I believe I bring a lot to the table. I have a lot of experience in terms of that board, that experience at board level. However, I bring a female element, and sometimes I believe women have a completely different thought process and bring a new element to the table. And we as women sometimes don't be afraid. It might seem like a wild question or a wild idea, but sometimes that works. There is nothing wrong with that, and we can't second guess ourselves. I would doubt myself all the time, and my mum was like, "Is that going to do you any good? You're just worrying yourself into a stupor. You know, it's not doing you any good. Then you're negative with the kids, and it's just bringing it home." And she's right. She is 100% right. So bringing that element where I'm not afraid to speak up. I have enough experience behind me to believe that these questions justify themselves. I believe that I have belief in myself, and I do still doubt myself, but I have to. It's a mind over matter thing. I have to say, no, it's okay, move on to the next thing. You can't dwell on that. That's not going to change, and I have no effect on it whatsoever. So ensuring that I have that self-belief to push myself on, and that's critical in order to get this diverse board level. And ultimately that's what the government is asking, that we have diverse boards on offer, but not in just gender, but in age, ethnicity, in all the ranges. So if I can bring 2 out of 3 of those elements, absolutely, I am out there. I'm putting my hand up. I want to be involved. Get me in. And if that's regional first of all, and then national, and then global, that's okay. I haven't decided where this glass ceiling is yet. I'm just happy to go with the flow.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. Okay, so if you had like 3 top tips for somebody from a diverse background in terms of believing in themselves, what do you think those 3 top tips would be, or 3 things to think about?
Do not be turned off just because you've been refused at application stage, or you didn't get the interview. Do not let that stop you. It's just a learning curve. So just ask for feedback and learn off that feedback. Okay. A good one I've learned recently is tell people that you're applying for these jobs. Tell people that you're going for that board position. Tell people you're going for that non-exec position. Tell people. Do not be afraid. There's nothing to hide. And third, have belief in yourself.
Okay. Brilliant.
I think that's very critical. I think females especially we put ourselves down so quickly, and that self-doubt creeps in very easily. But believe in yourself. You haven't got to this position without having some self-belief. So just make sure that carries on.
Yeah, I think it's important to say everyone struggles with confidence, and everyone, doesn't matter what level you're at, you're always going to have that voice in your head. So it's just, you just need to have a conversation with that voice and just tell it to be quiet. So it's not an experience thing, it's just a thing, and we just need to get over that thing in a way. So yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. We're nearly out of time, so I just wanted to ask, like, did you have a favorite book or song or movie that just you love, that's just your favorite thing to listen to or read?
Oh, that's a good question. There's quite a few. I grew up, my father.
If you don't say country music, being in like a trucker or something, I'll be really disappointed. If you don't say listen to Hugo Duncan every day, I'll just be gutted. Sorry, I'm joking.
No, well I do. I was reared in country, but a real diverse background. So like Simon Garfunkel, like a bit of Meatloaf, love a bit of Willie Nelson. I'm just an all round. My kids are into Avicii, love him too. Okay. So I really have an eclectic taste. But ultimately, there's the song that sort of I suppose cherish most, and means Bridge Over Troubled Water. Okay. I don't know, it's just the words are very poetic, and I enjoy its harmony. And if I have a crap day, it would be something that just picks you up because it tells you to carry on, and I think that's good.
God, Pamela, thank you so much for your time today. You've just really inspired me again. Like, it's just so amazing to speak to you. So I just want to say thank you so much. And
thank you very much, Anne, for your time.
Okay. No, thank you. Okay, and I'm going to hang up. That's us.